Hello again, everybody. It's Harry Box of the Technical Trader at techtrader.com. It's Saturday, the 20th of July. This is the weekend webinar. Well, the markets had an eventful week, first making new record highs for the NDX and S&P, while a lot of other indices went the other way. There's some international and intermarket divergences going on, which are causing big concern, of course. You can see the big drop. The gap down on Wednesday changed the trend, it appears. And we've been down for 3 days hard to what looks like an intermediate trend line that's gone back since April. It's a 3-month rising channel that looks like a 1-2 and a 3. Maybe this is 4. There's a possibility we get one more big wave up that could surprise a lot of the shorts and squeeze them. My buddy Avi is also of the same opinion, as well as some other people I know. So we'll see. Short term, I'll show you some of the indicators that are showing slightly oversold. So you should get a bounce. We'll see if that bounce is weak, forming a bear flag or something, and then we go lower or not. That's the S&P. Here's the NASDAQ 100. You can see that this also fell hard. Now, what's key is, I think, the S&P 500 made a higher high. The NDX failed to do so and dropped hard. Right now, near support at 19,470.72. We closed at 19,522, so just a bit above that. And beneath that, you have the 50-day moving average. It comes in at 19,322. So this zone is support. That's why I think we might get a bounce. If we don't, we're probably headed to test 940.50 area. Excuse me, that's about 600 points lower, and possibly the intermediate trend line down near 1900 or even 18.6. So I'm not sure how far they take this down, but we may get some squiggles in between. Excuse me. Sorry. So on the upside, the multiple wave advances showed 3-day pullbacks here and here. This is a sharper pullback. If we bounce near this zone at 20,000, give or take a 50-point run, and then roll over, we could be creating a head and shoulders top, something to watch for. Also diverging negatively, the IWM, excuse me, IWM had a big run up into Wednesday, so that really reversed hard. But where to reverse hard from? A 2-year high. You can see that coil that broke out the week before and extended earlier this week, big time. They've taken the IWM from 200.5 to 226.5. 26 points, about 12%, something like that, vertically in 5 days was a major move for the IWM. And then the 3-day pullback is not unexpected, but it comes with pretty good volume. Right now, for me, the key supports are around 213. We'll see where we go from there. Transportation index also with a very steep pullback right from where? That triple top. You can see this index went from under 15,000 to 16.3, so 1,300 points in just 4 days. Then the pullback to an initial support area that is an internal trend line and lateral price support. The ideal scenario is we bounce here. If not, we could come down towards 15,275, 15.3. Anyways, just wanted to show you that the very, very steep pop and drop we had in these two indices, the transportation and small cap IWM. So it was a tough pullback, but usually when they start intermediate downtrends, they'll start with a thrust to the downside. This certainly looks like it. We'll have to investigate further. What about the underlying technicals? Well, the McClellan oscillator, which we know they got above 200, which is extremely overbought. And when you see that, we haven't seen plus 200 since January 23, a year and a half. And only, a couple times in the last 3-4 years that we get above that. So it was pretty much oversold when we tagged 202 on Wednesday morning. And then boom, 202 down to $12, $11.93 to be exact. Big drop. And normally we see these kind of drops on the oscillator. It results with a pretty sharp rally in a couple of days. So we're back to neutral on that. What about percentage of stocks above their 40? They're holding up well so far, but they could crack it any minute. If they come down from about 72% of stocks, or almost 3/4 of all stocks, were above their 40, to now only 3 out of 5. So it did pull back. We'll see what that means. Right from the prior high, by the way. The VIX did pop, and this is, by the way, a bad number. I looked at it. The low was 15 something. So it's been up for 4 or 5 days in a row, and it's trending towards the initial resistance target of 19.5 to 21.5. So if the market does go further, we expect that. If not, we may pull back, consolidate, and then go up. Either way, it's going to be interesting to follow that one. Now look at the big boys and NASDAQ 100 generals. Now Apple had a big 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-wave move. I'm not surprised to see it pull back, and pretty sharply. It did get to the prior high and the 21-day moving average and the trend line all at the same point. Now, this is a key juxtaposition of support. If Apple's going to take this market higher, it's going to have to rally right from here and take out the high. Now, where can it go if that occurs? Well, if Apple really wants to run, my target is 250. But a move below Friday's low could start to exacerbate a decline, which would really potentially implode the market on a very short-term basis. But that's kind of what I'm looking for. If you see a pullback like we've had, a sudden climax with a big negative tick and a deep oscillator reading would be what I'd look for a rally. So we're either going to bounce right from here, or after a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-wave move, it's going to get deeper. If it does get down towards the 2078 range, it would be a buy for a bounce back to 220.25. But for me, for now, and also could be a left shoulder, head, right shoulder, depending on what occurs in the next few days. Amazon plunged from 200 to under 180. That's more than 20 points in a week and a half. But more importantly, key support broke on Wednesday with the market, and then the 50-period moving average and the trend line. This is a major trend line. It goes back more than a year and a half, a year and 3/4. So next support, if Amazon doesn't bounce and rally immediately. By the way, resistance now 187 and 191.5. The key support short term for Amazon is 174. Google, you'll see the intermediate trend line going back to March was violated, so was lateral price support, and it closed just under the 50, I believe. Yep. And although it was an up day, it was a barely up day. And right now it's in jeopardy of cracking hard. If it doesn't hold here along with Amazon, if Amazon and Google crack immediately, all hell could break loose. This market could take a dive. We'll have to watch the others too, like NVIDIA and Tesla, of course. But I would anticipate the possibility Google gets down to 172 quickly if it cracks. If that happens, you're looking at a much deeper decline. Check out the 18-month or longer-term rising channel on Google. It amounts to a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think. It's a little choppy. But the fact that this little mini head and shoulder type pattern, if you look at an hourly basis, looking at a left shoulder ahead and maybe a right shoulder, but it broke down to support, and now we have secondary support in this zone down here. So again, we're looking at breakdowns on a lot of these charts. Microsoft, look, a header, I mean a plunge. Stock was looking phenomenal at 468 just 2 weeks ago, and it got down to 425 or 43 points. That's a 10% drop very quickly on Microsoft. Where is it? Right on or near the channel bottom. It did bounce a bit and closed near the 50 on Friday, but the key resistance in Apple now is 444.5 and then 453.5. On the downside, any further damage can plunge us towards 400 and 510 range. Now NVIDIA. NVIDIA is on the precipice. Now this could be from this base here, a 1, 2, 3. And this could be a three-wave corrective 4. It's right on support. Price-wise, I told you last week 117.18. We get a little below that on 116.5, closing 118. This has got to rally back, or if it plunges, you're going to see 103.05 pretty quickly. That's where the gap is. If they fill that gap, we're looking at 96. Now, I'm not saying we're going down to 96 that quickly. And if that happens, obviously the market would be Tank City. But I would look for a major bounce off of that. And if it fails, then we're done. Meaning, any kiss back here that doesn't get back above 118.20, and I prefer, what I really need to see, it could be much more pleased, is 122.40.50 area. In other words, above the last 3-day highs, it's going to have to pop up through it. If it fails here, and it looks like it wants to, the whole market could dive for a day or two, or for at least an hour or two. You never know with this market. Let's look at Meta, Netflix, and Tesla. First of all, Meta has had a big drop. Not just a big drop from a price standpoint, but a big drop because it broke a lot of stuff. We made a nominal new high here, rolled over hard, and went from 538 to 459. It's about a 75-point drop on Meta in just 5 days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We did get a 2-day bounce. I'm not impressed. Unless this thing quickly gets back over 497.8 and starts to really run, it could easily roll over and make a lower low. And the next target would be around 422. So a lot of room to drop on this one if it doesn't rally pretty quickly. Netflix, and that big reversal bar. Boy, I don't know if that's correct. I'm going to check this out again. Yeah, it did spike up. Yep. And look where it closed. So that is a very extremely negative reversal bar. First of all, we broke support here. We broke the 50-day moving average and then spiked up on earnings. Failed near resistance and then closed with a really ugly engulfing reversal bar. If this doesn't hold 625, and that's 8 points from here, we could get a run down to 600, 605. And you start to see, and look at the rising of volume on the way down. This is not a good sign for Netflix. Tesla, well, it's probably the strongest one of the lot, although it did get hit for 9 points on Friday. I would have to say key support right now is this pullback low. We don't want this under 230, 233. Your next targets are 218 and 200 to 201. So careful with Tesla. If it does manage to take this declining top side out with any energy to the upside, your target is around 270. So a lot of interesting patterns forming on the NASDAQ 100 generals. Let's look at the major ETFs. Semiconductors, obviously a tough week, leaving the market lower. This big reversal bar here of 283 has led to 248 and a plunge below support, not only price but moving average support, and closing below it. Right now the target is a test at 238. Another 10 points down to SMH. Not good. On the other hand, financials, which had an explosive move, pull back to key support right there, closing right there. So we could bounce or get down to the next level first at 107. And this engulfing reversal bar on Thursday to a new high, not all time, but a new high, 123.66 and closing at 112 2 days later, not a good sign. So semiconductors, which have been weak for a while, and now a reversal to the downside on financials, does not augur well for this market. But again, short-term oversold, perhaps a little bit, or getting close to it. Biotechs, along with the you'll see that everything turned on Wednesday. And then went right down to the first support area and the gap. Next support is below that at 95, and then we're looking at 92.5. That's more like it. Coming off the top of the channel after a run that took the financials up 8 days in a row, you shouldn't be surprised to see the pullback. Now what? Is it going to back and fill and go higher, or is it going to bounce weakly and go lower? We're going to find out soon. That's the XPI, and I also want to always include LABU. Same pattern, up 8 days in a row, and a pullback to breakout point support. So kind of important the biotechs hold here, at least those indices. What about oil and gas? Well, big reversals on oil. I've been telling you it looked toppy to me, but that was a very negative day Friday for oil. And if this thing gets below the 50, which is at 77.34, we can see the USO get to 74, even 70. A lot of resistance up there in the low 80s, 82, 83. UCO looks the same. I'll just show it to you. This actually looks worse, quite frankly, because it's broken down below support and closed below it. So I would expect a test down here of 30 and maybe even 27.5. The long-term trend line could be tested to around 28 3/4. So the first target, 30 and 28 3/4 are your next support. But USO and UCO, they just don't look good. What about gas? Well, gas is getting a little bit of reactivated, but boy, did it get hammered. Look at this. We traded this perfectly there. But it came down and bounced again. I did not give it to you that time. It was a little suspect of it. Look at this. Oil goes from 23.70 on June the 11th to 9.63 on 17th of July, which is from 5-week drop. Almost in half. No, more than that. 23 to 9 and change. Wow. 60%. Yeah, and so that might have tried to reverse here last week. There was a selling climax on it on Wednesday. Traded the biggest volume I've ever seen on it. 27 million shares on BOIL at the bottom. KOLD, which is the exact opposite, and which ripped all the way from the mid-30s to the mid-70s, reached a level of resistance up here and then backed off. So I wouldn't call the top yet, but I will say that if it breaks this channel, we should get down somewhere between 50 and 54. A substantial drop, which means the BOIL could make it, if you're interested, back up towards 12 3/4, maybe more. In terms of gold and silver, I'm not surprised, but I am disappointed. We had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-way move to the top of the channel on GDX, so why wouldn't you expect to pull back? NUGT didn't even get to that channel top and pull back, although it did make a nominal new 52-week high. Your next target could be 50, 51, but it reached close to it, as you can see, and backed off. So I'm not convinced yet. We're going to have to do reversals on gold and silver for me to get excited. Here's a silver, AGQ. Now that looks even worse. They had a really big percent loss on Friday, 3.5% or 4% on the price of silver. But you can see that trend line's broken, and it's in jeopardy of a lateral price support break at 35 3/4. So stay tuned, we'll find out. There's plenty of others to show you, but when I get to certain stocks in the stock review, you'll see some gold and silver stocks there. That basically concludes my initial look at the indices, the underlying technicals, the ETFs we follow closely for the strongest groups, or the main groups, and then, of course, gold, silver, oil, and gas. All right, top of the board, let's go. We have about 100 stocks to review long and about 15 or 20 short. AAOI broke out. We put a swing on it. It pulled right back to the breakout point. This is normal, but I would prefer to see something a little bit more gentle than that. So because it's in a tech sector, obviously it got hit with the market. And it may be vulnerable, but your next target, if it runs, is 13. ABUS, junior biotech, look at that stair-step move and a beautiful rising channel. It is, though, near the top of that channel, it could be vulnerable. If it accelerates, your target's 4 3/4. Archer Aviation, after a long multi-month decline, broke out, pulled back and tested, and then broke out again, but got up to a double top and pulled back again. So interesting pattern developing, quite the angle of ascent. If it's going to hold and run some more, Friday's low should hold. If it doesn't, you'll come back down to 4. ADMA, yet another junior biotech that's just phenomenal. Since last October, at 315. It is more than quadrupled to 1384. If you look at this chart, there's no reason whatsoever for you to consider selling it, other than it hit a long-term target that I had at this prior high, and that's made a slightly higher high. So, it could go, but it's extended, no question. And it's vulnerable because it's biotech. Keep raising your stops on something like that. AEHR popped out. We put a swing on it. It did very well for us. Literally went from 14 and change to 21 and change. So it went 7 points, about 50% in just 5 days. Now the pullback is holding the gap so far. But please note that support on this one is 18, 15. If it does do a 1, 2, 3, 4, and the fifth wave comes, we might see a spike into the mid-20s if the market cooperates. AAOI, beautiful rising channel, and then a falling channel. It popped and it's platforming. It has to get up through the high earlier in the week of 2384. If we could do that, we could fly into the high 20s, low 30s. ALHC, look at this rising channel. And a base breakout. This is a 2-year high. Excuse me, a year and a half high. The target now, 10.5 and 12. AORT, medical device manufacturer, breaks out of a base, stair steps its way higher, forms a coil and pops, and now is at the top of the channel at resistance. So might be vulnerable to pullback retest, but eventually targeting 32.5. In the educational group, American Public Education broke out of a base back in November and just kept running from 5.5 to over 20, 21. We're talking about 300% gain and still is higher. Don't know if it can do it, but a mid-channel target is 23 and the upper channel is 30. ARLO, building material stock, broke out. It's channeling up. It recently broke out of a wedge with a pop, and now it's a rising flag. Is it overbought? Maybe short term, but I think that stock has designs on mid-20s. Targets right now, though, 19 3/4, 20, and then 24.5. ASTS, the tech trader swing, popped and pulled back and then exploded, wedged, been a rising channel ever since. My target, 17, or 15 and then 17. AU, one of my favorite golds, you can see that's coming off of key resistance from the spike high in April of 23. And after a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then pullback, it looks like a long third wave move that's pulling back into wave 4. Support 26, resistance 30, target 34. AVPT, really tight little pattern software stock at point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves up near the top of the channel, but momentum is very strong in this one. Targeting 11.5. BCRX pop, coil, tech trader swing, pops out, flags, breaks away, runs up to the target number 1, pulls back, sitting on support. Excuse me. So a breakout above that, and we're looking at 8 3/4, 9. Here's a stock that I've been following for 10 years, and it really can run when it goes, as witnessed by that and that. After forming a base and a breakout, this is forming a base and maybe breaking out with Friday's pop of 18% on 1 million shares, 1.2 million. This is a big volume for that stock. If it runs, we're looking at 5 3/4. CDNA, a big inverse head and shoulders, a breakaway move, a coil. This is a tech trader swing. It broke out of the coil, now it's flagging. Your targets, 21 and 28. Seco, environmental, biggie, beautiful chart. Literally from 4 to 30, 7-fold. Doesn't look done yet, does it? Next target, 34. CL, well, Colgate-Palmolive has been a beautiful rising channel for a year now, since October. It's seen a move from 68 to 100. Can they go further? Usually when stocks go through 100, they can get up to about 5-10% more. I'm looking for 104. Cellbrite, that's a great looking chart. Inverse head and shoulder type pattern. Pull back, rising channel, multiple waves, breaking out on Friday. Some resistance right there. We get through it, 15.5 target. Clearfield, base, breakaway gap, a nice consolidation, and then a move up. If he gets to 43, you might see 50. Coherent. One of our old swings that did very well for us, but this week had a tough pullback with the tech stocks. Stop under 67, retest 78, your target. Coin, well, COIN has been a leader in crypto. Check out this chart. In June of 23, about a little above a year ago, it was 32. And by March, it was 283. Ninefold increase. Now that move required a long consolidation, which it's gotten. But take a look at Friday's pop. I also want to point out the tracking stock, which we follow all the time and trade, at CONL. Same pattern or similar. Here's what I would do with this. Another trend line. So watch this one for a pop. Your first target is 65.6. Your second target is 72.3. Corz, fantastic explosive move from 2 3/4 all the way up into the low 12 1/4 before the pullback. This would be considered a very strong rising channel, or rising flag, whatever you want to call it, targeting 12.5 and 14. Koya, well, it ran up to the channel top and backed off. Volume receded a little bit. I like this chart if it doesn't break 670. Support is 670 and then 590. But once he gets above the 8 range, I'm looking for 9, 9.5, 10.5, and then we go to 15. CRBP with a major breakaway gap in January and then a wedge. Then popped, coiled, and it's extending. This one looks like it wants to go higher. I got a target of 90. That's a really big move from here. CRNT, we put a tech trade swing here. It did well. Got to the target. It came down. I put a new one out last week. I think the stock's ready for a move back up to 3 1/4 and then 4 1/4. Criteo really looks strong. Breakaway gap in February, rising channel. Beautiful flag in here. My target's 45. Carvana. Well, I don't know how far they take this, but it's already gone from 4 to 140 almost. This is an amazing move. The recent pullback looks muted. It bounced Friday on good volume. So we'll see if it holds. For me, the stop is on at 118. Target is 140 and 160. DRS, terrific looking aerospace chart. At the top of the channel, maybe extended to say the least. Having gone from single digits to nearly 30. Nearly 29, sorry. But a beautiful rising pattern still intact. We'll see if it has energy. DSP breaks out of a base, pops and wedges, stares up its way higher. Basically, we're looking at what I think is a 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth wave broke out. My target for what fifth wave top is around 15, 16. DYN, beautiful base, breakout, wedge, pop wedge, flag, pop flag, ascending bull coil, whatever you want to call it, and a breakout. Target 58. EBS, a tech traded swing after popping and pulling back. This stock's been beautiful. Pull back this week after an 8-day run. But I got to tell you, this is one powerful looking chart to me. My targets are 14 and 16.5. ERJ, the South American airline manufacturer, aircraft manufacturer, pop coil, pop pullback. I think this is a 1, 2, and this is a 1, and this is wave 3 and 4. The fifth wave target is now high 30s. EWTX popped the base, formed the wedge, breakaway gap, ran up and coiled, and then popped but couldn't get through and had a falling wedge, and then finally popped and did get through, and is now sitting on top of that flagging. That's bullish. High 20s target. EXK in the silver sector with most of the silver stocks backing off. You can see it's right back to the prior high. Really needs to hold. Stop is under 3 3/4. Above 5, the stock can be 6.5, 7. FTI, beautiful long-term chart. Multiple waves up, coming out of a falling wedge and flagging now, targeting 30 and 33. GDS breaks out of a base and sets up a little wedgy flag. My target's 15. Geo, I gave you this one down here when it broke out of the base long time ago, 7 3/4, I believe. It subsequently got up to 18. So 150% is still going. The breakout now, who knows how far they take this one. But if it gets up above 18, you might see 21 and 24. Geron, big breakaway gap, a little wedgie, a pop to the first target, a pullback, and then another spike and a falling wedge. My target is 6 3/4, 7. General Motors, what a nice chart on this one. 25 to over 50, so it's a double and a beautiful rising channel. If it extends without breaking down, your stop would be under here. Stop under 45. Target 54 and 59.60. GOVX, long downtrend, spiked up, and in a week and a half, literally went from 109 to 490, nearly quintupled. Subsequently, the wedge that's formed now is near the apex and looking interesting. But I would wait for a move over 345 with energy. Once you see this little double top taken out there, I think it's not going to take off again. So stay tuned on that. HEPS, out of nowhere, this little company broke out of a base, retested, and then went zooming doom. 1 3/4 to 3.5, it doubled. It basically has a 1, 2, 3. I'm looking for wave 4 and 5 could get you to 4.5, 5. I don't know why, but Robinhood's been stellar for since November when it was trading down to 7 and change, and then went into the triple to the mid 20s. Your target is 28.5 and above. Harrow, beautiful base breakaway wedge. This is a tech trader swing, and it continues strong, reaching all the way past 25. IMMR breaks out of a base, pulls back and tests, held the 50, and spiked up right to the resistance area and target. This is a 1, 2, 3. I'm looking for 4 and 5 to get us into the mid to high teens. INOD breakaway gap, rising channel. It looks like a 1, 2, 3, and 4 is underway. Let's see if it holds and accelerates, which would get me to 25. INSM, major base, major massive breakaway gap, and then a rising pattern with a flag. Since then, exceptionally strong rising channel. Right now, I'm looking for triple digits in this stock. It's under 80. IONS reversed in June, and it went from 36 to 50 and change. It backed off, but it bounced on Friday. So I would put a stop right there, 46. But extension target is 52 and 54. ISRG, this is a NASDAQ 100 component I don't talk about too often, but Intuitive Surgical manufactures the Da Vinci operating system. Fantastic long-term chart. It had a great earnings report that popped and broke out to new all-time highs. So I'm not sure if this can extend, but if the market allows it, we're looking at a $500 stock, I think. IVP, how about this surge? Literally gone vertical from 123 to 16 in about 2 weeks. So is it overbought? Yeah. Does it have momentum? You betcha. The support and stop is under 9 1/4 thereabout. If it gets over at 16, I'm looking at low to mid 20s. Jemiah is a beautiful 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pop falling wedge, and both times held near the trend line and or 50-day moving average, and now they move up. So it is extended. It's at the highest level we've seen since early 22, so a 2-year high. If I can get above here, you might see something around 18. Kyndryl, the spin off from IBM, has been in a beautiful rising channel for going on a year and 3/4, and now coiling and coming out of the coil. My targets are going to be 30 and 33. We talked about KOLD earlier. LBPH with a major explosive move in January and then a 6-month coil or flag. It did break out. It's when it did, it ran from low 20s to high 30s. I don't think it's done yet. Could be a takeover. Laird Superfoods explodes out of a base of falling wedge near the 50. Pops to 50, and another falling wedge or a smaller one, more of a pennant. And then another pop and a pennant, and then another pop. But now forming a wedge. Now it could be a head and shoulders. It doesn't necessarily look like it, but you can see Friday's low is going to be important at 365. If it pops here and extends, I'm looking at a retest of 6.5 and then maybe 9. Mara popped out of its coil that took months to develop and then pulled back. Is that a retest? Is it an entry op? It sure looks like it is. On the long range, this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, and the fifth wave could take us to 50, 55. If Bitcoin takes off and crypto stocks go, I'd be trading CONL and Mara. Meso, explosive move and pullback, and then a pop and a coil. It broke out of the coil but couldn't break through the highs, and it's sitting here in a mini pennant. My targets are 8.25, 10, and 12. MGNI, up against some key resistance here, but in a wonderful long-term base. And the current trend says if it goes, 17 target. 3M, take trade swing when it broke out, and then reached target number 1 and coiled. Target number 2 is 110. Target number 3, high teens, 118.20. MYO, recent addition after breaking out of a beautiful, explosive, basing pattern. It's now wedging. I love this look. If it breaks here, we're going to 7 and 8.75. NRIX, beautiful rising channel, made a new high and packed off. Key support now, 19. Resistance 24. Target high 20s. UMA, popped, flagged, popped again. And now you can see the tendency on this one is to want to break out. And if it does, my target's 11, 3/4, 12. ORN in the engineering construction group, what a nice channel. This has gone from 2.5 to 12, and my target says 14. OUST breaks out of a base, pulls back, pops, and then flags. He goes vertical out of the flag, but pulled back late last week. Underlying technicals are turning a little weaker, so I'm careful with this one, but the pattern still looks good. Paysign, PAYS, popped out of its coil big time, and it's sitting here flagging. I'm looking for 5 3/4 and 7. Impinge continues to impress. Popped out back in October. We put a swing on it at 59. Well, folks, it made it to 180. A target of mine, but I think now that it's done this, and it's right at resistance, should it get through here, we might see 225. Careful though, overbought. Pulse, nice rising channel. Recent spike to the channel top and a pullback. The overall look of this one is impressive. I like the underlying technicals as well. Eventual target, 30.31. Palantir, nice rising channel and impressive in this market as well. Right now, if it extends, I'm looking for 31.5 and 33.5. RGS, massive breakaway gap and a tight coil. Look how it popped on Thursday. And it went from basically 2069 to almost 29 and broke through everything. Watch this one next week because it could be wildfire. Rivian popped out, pulled back. We put a swing on it. It went from 14 and change to 19 and change. Not quite, 18.85. And then pulled back. It does look like a rising channel. And it's right on support. Ideally, it goes from here. Retest 18.5 or so, and then goes to 22.3. RNA has been a monster, as Fran knows. Look at this pop. Back when it was $8, we put a swing on it, and it's moved all the way up into the mid 40s. It doesn't look done yet. Pretty impressive pattern. Eventually, it's a $60, $70 stock, in my opinion. We'll see if it holds. And extends, of course. Sentinel 1. Now, this is one that was on my Tech Trader Swing shortlist from here. Look at that rollover. But after V-bottoming and breaking through the channel and holding the moving averages, Friday was a big day for it, but it didn't break out yet. Something to watch. If it gets above 22.5, we might see mid-20s and high 20s. What can you say about SARV? It was one of the better trades of the month and literally went up 212% on a mere 287 million shares. So and look where it closed at the upper end of the range. It may not be done. We could see 11 or 12 in the stock before it's over. SGHT broke out of its coil and settled back a little bit. I like the overall look of this one a lot, and it's been on my list for a while. Extension targets say 9 and 11. SHM, a big week and a big 2 weeks. It's gone from $1.50 to 4 and change. It's at resistance. So careful here, but if it breaks out, you might see 6 or 7. Pretty amazing move. SLNH out of nowhere exploded in early June and just went vertical, going from 215 to 9 and pulling back and wedging. What I would watch on this one is for next week. If it makes it over 7 again, it could run to 9, even 11 or 12. SMLP in the oil and gas group. Pretty impressive chart. Long base, breakaway gap, flag, pop, wedge, pop. And if it goes some more, I can see low 40s. SMMT with a big pop and flag and moving up again. The overall look is stellar. It is at some resistance that it's got to get through. The target would be 1314. SOI, the tech trader swing. It's a stock I love. One of my institutional clients did a report on it that was very impressive. But more importantly, technically, it's near the target zone and recent highs that may impede further progress, but that's up around 14 and a half. SOUN exploded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then came down and formed a big coil before breaking out, reaching resistance and backing off. Keep an eye on this one, especially over 6. SPIR, what a nice recovery. You may remember we put a swing on it, it popped for a day and then got hammered on earnings or something, but it's recovered beautifully, broken back out through 2 layers of resistance. It's at layer number 3, but my extension target is 16 and a half and then a retest of 18. SPRY, ARS Pharmaceuticals, broke out finally and then pulled back to test. This is a massive breakout of a long base that goes back 2-3 years, so it could extend into the mid-teens. SRTS, you may remember this one that we did well with and then collapsed on earnings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ways down, reversed 1, 2, 3, 4. The 5th wave is underway, should lead to 8 and may get to 9, 10. Task, long downtrend, nice base pattern, breaking out, although it's at the channel top, it could accelerate here into the high teens. TERN, a junior biotech that broke out and retested, is at the point where it's either a buy here for a run to 13 or it fails. So we'll know quickly on that one. Teva, really terrific for a year now. It's gone from 7.5 to 18, nearly. Now it's consolidating for the last 2 months. It needs to break out. If it does, 19 and 21.5 targets. Twist Biosciences, after a long downtrend, it's done a 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's a little bit risky up here at resistance, but a strong chart. Urban Outfitters, terrific long-term chart, and it actually broke back out recently. There's some resistance right about where it is, but if it goes 52 and 56 are the targets. VERX, beautiful long-term rising channel. Can it extend? If it does, targeting 43.4. VF Corp, inverse head and shoulders or a little V bottom of the platform, and then a wedge formed. It popped a wedge the last week or so, and it's gone from 12.5 to 16, almost 17. There's some resistance up there, 17 and a quarter and a half, but if it gets through that, 19 and 21 targets. VIRC, this is a thin stock, folks, but and I was watching this since it popped and did this, and I didn't do it because it was so thin, but it's gone from 6 to 17, nearly tripled. My target is 21 now. VIST has been a monster, literally gone from 2 to 50, almost 49. Target 58. VRNA, biotech with a massive move recently, 11.5, doubling to nearly 24. Extension target 26.5. May need a 4th wave pullback consolidation, however. VRRM, that's Vera Mobility, beautiful chart, and just hit the channel top, so careful. But it's all-time highs and it's got fantastic momentum. WGS Tech Trader Swing just keeps going. Very impressive. It reached all my targets by tagging earlier this week 35.85. My target was 35, I believe. What's it doing now? It's still consolidating. And if it continues the trend, we're looking at 40.41. Wheat and precious metals, the leader in silver. But a great chart, even though it pulled back, it's stronger than most stocks, and it's something to keep your eye on. WULF broke out of a base and just kept running. The Tech Trader Swing has moved from 3 and change to over 6, more than doubling, and now the target is 8. ZAP exploded, and now it's wedging in here. Key support, however, is 8, 815. Current resistance 16. It's got a wide ranging movement, and it's very volatile, and thin. Careful on that one, but if it goes, it could be mid-20s. Zeta, gorgeous chart. We gave you a swing when it popped out here, flagged, ran, formed another coil of sorts, popped out and pulled back on the little flag, held moving average, and it kept going. What a great chart. Right now, believe it or not, I think this is going to be somewhere in the mid-20s. Short term. And finally, ZimV broke out of that multi-month coil as well, flagged, and then popped. It's right above resistance and doing this. This could very well be high 20s very quickly. Let's look at the longs. We have some shorts to cover, and then we'll wrap it up. AMN, despite the pop here, remember we gave this to you when it broke down from the bear flag, broke down from the bear wedge. It kept going down. It's had multiple waves, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves down. So it might, and it did bounce. This has to be covered above 61.2, or if not, a rollover would take it to 43. BBWI, something I added this week, Bath and Body Works, last week, because it got hammered. Now you had an opportunity to short it on Thursday as it spiked 41, but it's closed at 37.50, and I'm not going to be shocked to see a move. First of all, past the 33 range, and then maybe in the high 20s. Disney continues to look ugly after topping and breaking down here. It's at support, but if it breaks further, we're going to be looking for 88, 89. INMD has been ugly for 3 years. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and fifth wave down, but it might be 1, 2, 5. The stop would be over 20, but the pullback from that level augurs well for more downside. And I'm going to say my next target is going to be around 15. MDB, 1, 2, 3, 4. Fourth wave rising bear wedge says we go down. 194, 185 are targets. Yelp broke down, rising wedge, and then broke down. It tried to break here, but it rallied back in reversal. Look at the reversal day Friday. Not good. My targets are retested 35 and then down 32.3. BRZE in a rising bear wedge may have broken up Friday, right to the declining top line, the way I've drawn it. This is your internal trend line. We get back below 37.25.5. That's where I go short. The target's going to be 30.5 and high 20s. CMG, Chipotle, after a big split, has gotten hammered. Now, it's broken several layers of support. I would look for a rally back to 55, 57, and then short for a move down towards 49.50. Dash, still looking ugly. It bounced off the trend line, looks like on Friday, but I'm looking to see if this stock can get down to here. This is my next target, 87.88. It's now 106-ish. FCX, this is a left shoulder, head right shoulder, folks, any way you look at it. The neckline broke, the trend line broke, the moving averages are above us. If you're long FCX, you may get a bounce, but I would exit on that bounce. Right now, I'm looking for a move to 41 and eventually 36.7. Copper is coming down as well. INFA, well, this couldn't do better. Tech Trader swing short has dropped from 31 to 24 very quickly, and it's been down 10 days in a row on heavy volume. You want to think about covering. It's at the bottom of the channel, but I still think even if you bounce, eventually it'll be low 20s. JBL, massive top, and engulfing reversal day on Friday says we go lower. Targeting 104. What the heck is that? Hold on. So targeting 104, 100, 88. ONTO I added this week. This is a major semiconductor with a massive break of price support, trend line, moving averages rolling over. I can see the stock down to 170.71 pretty quickly. If you get a bounce and you get lucky to get short that bounce. And finally, SIG Tech Trader swing short is breaking. It dropped another $2 on Friday. It's right on pretty good support or just beneath it. If we get to here, I'm looking for a plunge to 74.5. And that's it, folks. Extensive look at the indices, the underlying technicals, the key ETFs we follow. a list of 100 longs and about 18, 20 shorts. For now, though, folks, this is something you need to really dwell on because I think the next week or two are going to be critical days in the market. My tendency is to be short, but only after we get a bounce. For now, HB out. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the rest of it.